Hello to all of you. Welcome to this edition of the Alaska Report. As you'll recall, last month I was able to introduce to you a great group of young Alaskans from around the state who had been invited back to Washington, D.C. to be part of my summer internship program. Well, we have a new group of interns, our second session interns that have been here since the 4th of July through the end of the month, really doing everything that we needed to have done, whether it was working on research projects, helping with the phones, giving tours, answering the questions, helping us move and relocate as we had gone through a little bit of an office overhaul. The interns are invaluable to me in the day-to-day operations. They are invaluable to every member of my staff, and it's a great opportunity for each of them to not only gain a little understanding of the ins and outs of the United States Senate, but what it means to live in a metropolitan area. This is a little bit different from, say, on Alaska or even Anchorage. So the opportunity to live in the city, ride the metro to work, live in a dorm type setting, it really is quite an experience and an educational opportunity. So one of the best things that I'm able to do is to bring back 20 great young Alaskans, introduce them to the ins and outs of Washington and see them grow. So this is an opportunity through this program to introduce them to our viewers and for them to throw a few softball questions at me. They've been shadowing me for the past month and have seen all that goes on in the day-to-day operations. So we're going to do what we always do on this program, which is just start from one end to the other, introduce yourself, give us your hometown and high school, and then we'll have an opportunity for a little bit of an exchange. But it's just been a delight to have each and every one of you with us back here in our Washington, D.C. office. So, first up.
Hi, my name is Piper Cooper from Ketchikan. I attended Ketchikan High School, and I just wanted to say, first of all, on behalf of all the interns here, thank you for this opportunity. It's really incredible to be able to sit down with you and have this time to ask you some questions. So my question for you is, as a woman with great responsibility in the U.S. Senate, and especially in your leadership roles, do you ever feel an obligation to young women or young girls to be a role model for them, or to encourage them to seek out more leadership roles in the workforce?
I think your question is, do I ever feel an obligation? I think the response is I always feel an obligation to help mentor and encourage young women, girls who may be looking at future possibilities, and not necessarily limited to possibilities within a political life, but just to encourage young women that you can do whatever it is that you would set your sights to. Don't limit yourself in any way. And I think that is important, whether you are looking to be a political leader, whether you seek to be a teacher, whatever your passion may be, you should not let your gender be viewed in any way as something that would hold you back. I'm so proud to be able to know and to call as friends some very strong female leaders, not only in the political world, but military leaders who have just broken through all of the glass ceilings. Women who are leading as CEOs in the private sector. I look to the leadership that we see in the academic world, where women are taking over, if you will. So I take the role of being a mentor as one that is not only very serious, but one that I take up with great relish. So thanks for the question, Piper, and I truly appreciate it.
Hey, Senator.
Hey, Max.
My name is Max Varela. I'm from Ketchikan, and I graduated from Ketchikan High School. Senator, there has been a lot of talk recently about the excessively partisan nature of U.S. politics today. In your opinion, has it become increasingly more difficult to foster bipartisanship? And if so, what can be done to fix it?
It is a more partisan environment, absolutely. I've been here now for 15 years. That's most of your lives. And it has changed. It has changed, and I don't think for the better. I am one who believes that collaboration, coming together with the best ideas from both sides is what makes the legislative process really what it is. Legislation is almost by definition a compromise, taking good ideas from lots of different sources. And so the more partisan that we become, I think the less able we are to truly address the interests of the greater whole. And so working to ensure that we do seek that collaboration, that we are bipartisan in our approach is important. But you have to make it work. You have to do the reach out. We by nature are kind of in this shirts and skins games, the red versus the blue, the Republican versus the Democrat. And unless you're willing to move between those and make those relationships and find that common ground with somebody from the other team, then it's just too easy to get stuck in a partisan divide. So how do you do the reach out? It's by establishing those relationships. It is about getting to know one another outside of the building. I think the women of the Senate do a pretty good job of making sure that we are mixing. We gather together as women of the Senate on a somewhat frequent basis. About every month or 6 weeks or so, we'll get together and we'll have dinner. And there's no rules to the dinner. There's no agenda item. There's no one issue that we talk about. We visit. We share experiences. We talk about families. We do talk about politics. We talk about issues. But it really is designed to just help break down some of the partisan walls that have been created. So you have to make the effort, but it's worth the effort. Believe me, it's worth the effort. Thanks, Max.
My name is Quincy Taylor. I'm from Anchorage, and I went to West High School. I'm currently considering pursuing a Juris Doctorate. How has your prior work in practicing commercial law influenced your decisions on the federal policy?
Well, I encourage young people that are looking at a graduate program, ask yourself seriously, what is it that you want to do with this degree? Because if you've got your mindset, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, go right for it. If you're not quite sure, do I really want to be a lawyer? I wasn't sure I wanted to be a lawyer, but I knew what I did want out of law school. I wanted to better understand the law. And so I went to law school, not to be a practicing attorney, but because I was really curious about the law and I wanted to learn. And as a consequence, I had a fabulous 3 years in law school because I was just there to learn, and I did. And then after getting that JD, I realized, wow, I have really opened up my opportunities. And so that was when I went into a commercial legal practice. And that was formative for me in many ways, in just better understanding the application of the law to, in that instance, basic contract, because that was so much of what I did. So you have the benefit, I think, of an understanding of the law that comes to you through law school, and then the application of that in whatever practice you might decide after that. And I do believe that that has helped me as I have gone on to be a lawmaker, understanding that the legal analysis and the basis in law is important. But I remind people that another good benefit of law school is I think it trains you to think analytically. And in this job, representing Alaskans on issues that may be difficult and complicated, to be able to think analytically and critically about a problem has served me well. So if you get ready for law school and you need a recommendation, give me a call, Quincy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Senator. My name is Tanner Day. I'm from Anchorage as well, and I graduated from Diamond High School. My question is, do you think the legalization of marijuana in Alaska is helping to dissolve the illegal drug trade? And do you think the legalization was a good choice for Alaska?
Well, when this issue was moving through the state on the initiative, I opposed it. I have been one that has said that as a state we suffer from addiction in many different ways, whether it is the addiction of alcohol, tobacco, and certainly different levels of drugs. And I want us to be healthy in all ways. We've got a long ways to go in dealing with substance abuse issues. So I did not support the initiative. I lost on that. The majority, in fact, it was a pretty robust majority of Alaskans said that they wanted to move towards legalization. So I have viewed my job, my role, to make sure that there is a level of good, strong, rigorous regulation in place that needs to happen, and that with that regulation, we then work to make sure that there is a level of safety and oversight. And this is where we have the conflict at the federal and the state level. As you know, if the state has legalized, it doesn't mean that it is legal at the federal level. And so when you have for instance, an individual that works at, for instance, TSA, federal agency, there's a very clear policy that there can be no use of any substance, even if it is legal, whether it is marijuana or whether it is alcohol. And so making sure that there's an understanding and appreciation as to the distinction is important. We're going to have to figure out how we reconcile the banking laws with the legalization of marijuana that we have had in the state. Your question is more to the point as to whether or not I think we have dealt with the illegal aspect of marijuana. I think it remains to be seen. I'm not sure if we have eliminated the illegal trade and traffic that went on, or whether that still continues as people seek to avoid the taxes that have been imposed, and I think rightly imposed, on the industry. So I think as we're still seeing these new laws and regulations play out, we'll see whether or not we have eliminated the illegal activity. I think the experience that we've seen in other states that have legalized is that it has not eliminated it. Maybe it has abated it somewhat, but I think we're still in that trial zone now. It's a different time for us as a state, and trying to make sure that we get the regulations and the laws right to provide for safety is important. So thanks, Tanner.
My name is Brigid Neelam, and I'm from Unalaska, graduated from Unalaska City High School. And I was wondering what piqued your interest in politics. Was it when you were a high school graduate intern with Senator Stevens, or were you always involved with law and government throughout your high school career?
Well, certainly the broader political lens was opened to me when I came back here as an intern for Senator Stevens after I graduated from high school. I had not ever really focused on national politics until that time. I had been involved as a high school student in some local political races, so focused on the state issues. When I was 16, I had helped manage. I was the office manager for a gubernatorial candidate. He was not successful at the time, but I was involved in things that way. When I was in 8th grade, pretty young girl, my father ran for the state house. And so that was my first exposure to politics. And my real recall was that we did a lot of sorting and bundling of mail in our family basement. It helps when you have 6 kids, and we were like the post office down there. But I was involved in my school politics. I was a student body officer, and I think that exposure helped just allow me to think about what the possibilities might be for me in some form of elected office. But in fairness, I had always been kind of one of those who helped others become elected. And so it wasn't until I was out of school and well into my career and raising a family before I thought about me as the candidate. So there were years when it was always helping others gain that position. But now we're here where we are. So nice to have you here, Brigid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vino Ava, and I'm from Palmer, Alaska, and I attended Palmer High School. My question for you is, when considering how other states have allocated money towards improving the future of the next generation, in Alaska, it frequently comes up in the legislature whether the PFD is something that should be replaced. What are you doing or can be done at the federal level to ensure long-term funding in the state of Alaska?
For us in the state, it really is about how we ensure that we've got an economy that's sustainable. We've been a boom and bust economy since before statehood. It was gold, it was fur, it was timber, it's now oil, but it is up and it has been down over the course of decades, and that's hard. So how can we have that economy that is more stable, that ensures that every year we have the resources and to ensure that we've got a good, strong education system, good public safety, a transportation sector that is adequate. And so how do we smooth this out? That is one, when you think about the assets that we have as a state, our permanent fund is a pretty extraordinary asset, but the way that we have structured the permanent fund limits its ability to be that asset. And so that has led to much of the significant debate that we have seen in recent years about the role of the permanent fund. So my goal, my desire here in the congressional delegation is to put in place those structures that allow us to have that longer-term sustainable economy, whether it is ensuring that you've got strong fisheries, whether it is ensuring that you have networks that allow us to communicate with the rest of the world because we're on an equal footing there. You think about the other sectors that benefit with that, whether it is tourism, whether it is all levels of commerce. So it really comes down to how do we diversify our economy? What can we do at the federal level to help facilitate not only what we have with our strong natural resources, but these types of resources, which are the human potential that you all represent. Thank you, Hannah.
Hi, Senator.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, my name is Nathan Bering. I'm from Fairbanks. I go to West Valley High School, and my question is, as a political moderate, how do you advise approaching those who identify as conservative on climate change issues? And are there any current policy proposals you believe conservatives could support on this issue?
Well, as you know, we've had discussions about this, and you've been part of the meetings. I am one who believes that we are experiencing the impacts of a changing climate. We're seeing that acutely in certain parts of Alaska as we see sea ice receding, as we see continual erosion, as we see permafrost thaw. It is a reality. And so it is a conversation that needs to be had, and that conversation needs to lead to action. I do have those colleagues who have a greater degree of skepticism either about whether the climate is changing or really more to the point, what do you do about it? Are there solutions that are in the mix? Absolutely. And I think we see them every day in the Energy Committee. Some of them you might not think about being a solution, but when we work to put in place those initiatives that allow us to be more efficient with our energy use, to basically use less, that's saving us, that's reducing our emissions. You don't think about that as a response to a changing climate, but it is. Is it enough? No, but it is part of the bigger piece. And so I think as we look to how we address these complex and complicated issues, we didn't get here overnight, we're not going to get undone overnight. It has to be with a recognition that there's a willingness to address the reality that we face. So how we create that safe space to talk about, this is one of the reasons why I love speaking to young people about these issues, because your perspective is one that isn't built on a history. You know what you know now. So share with me what you think a way to approach these conversations are. Ways that we can address our future, because it is our collective future and it is our collective responsibility as to how we're going to address it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a top-down government imposition mandated approach, but it does have to be multifaceted, and it does have to start with a recognition that we have a problem, that we all own it, and that we've got a responsibility to move forward. So good young leaders like you're going to help us get there. So thank you, Nathan. I appreciate your advocacy. Brynn.
All right, my name is Brynn Morse, and I'm from Anchorage and East Anchorage High School. And I'm wondering how growing up in a relatively small community better prepared you for the work you do now.
Well, I like that question because I really feel like I am from so many different places that I can truly call home. I mean, I was born in Ketchikan, but we moved from Ketchikan when I was really young. My dad was in the Coast Guard when I was born there, and yet my mom's family still down there. So I've spent a lot of time in Ketchikan. Ketchikan is a town that when I was born, it was a timber town. That was their economic base. Not so much anymore, not a lot of timber activity in the Tongass, but I can kind of relate to those issues. We lived in Wrangell for many of my growing up years. Tiny island community, couple thousand people. I was back there for the 4th of July. They also used to be a timber town, used to have a sawmill. That's not the jobs anymore. Now they've got a little fisheries industry, but it's more tourism based now. We lived in Juneau for many years when I was growing up as a kid. And you know, that's a little bit of fish, not so much timber, government town. So I understood that local economy, and I understood what it means to be in communities that aren't connected to the road system, where the Alaska Marine Highway is your highway, and the significance of what it means when all of your groceries are either flown in or barged in. You're not growing them down there, and you're not putting them on a truck and driving them. It adds to your cost, and what does that mean? And then moving to a community like Fairbanks. We were off the water, good heavens. I didn't realize there were towns that weren't on an island in the water, and we moved to Fairbanks, and being in a place where it was pretty dark in the winter, it was really cold in the winter time. Energy costs were something that my family, all our families, dealt with. We were just talking about climate issues, but in Fairbanks they had very significant air particulate issues because of where Fairbanks sits. So being able to understand all that meant. I went to high school when we were building the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. I literally lived in that boom town at a very exciting time when there was a frenzy of activity. But being in Fairbanks at that moment in our state's history was pretty compelling. And then being in our state's largest community, Anchorage, and raising my family there with my husband, that has given me yet another sense of community. So it's not so much whether the towns were small, but kind of where they were, what it exposed me to, the different economies that we have in these communities, what it means to be isolated, to be cut off. When I was growing up, believe it or not, I know this makes me sound really old, Alaska had 5 time zones. 5 time zones. Yeah, you're looking, Tanner, like, how can that be? Well, that's how big a state we are. But we decided that was tough from a commerce perspective, and so they consolidated them down, and now it's just Alaska Standard Time, although you do have one on the end of the chain. But I mean, think about that as a state and what it means to be from different areas like that. So I feel like I was blessed to grow up in a pretty extraordinary state in some very unique communities with exceptional Alaskans. So thanks, Brynn.
Hi, Senator. My name is Jodi Spikes, and I'm from Sterling. I just graduated from Soldotna High School. My question is, if you could change one aspect of the legislative process, what would it be and why?
One aspect of the legislative process, I was going to say, initially I was going to say I would like us to do more activities where we are not separated as Republicans and Democrats. And when I'm saying that, for instance, our policy lunches, the Republicans meet in one room, the Democrats meet in another room. They talk their policy, we talk our policy. On Wednesdays, we have, again, lunches that are separated. On Thursdays, we have lunches that are separated. So we don't ever have a meal where we as senators sit down, except every now and again when we have a bipartisan lunch. Now that's not the legislative process which you're talking about, but that does go to, I think, the health of the legislative process. When you don't have to spend time with one another, it's harder to get to get to where you're getting some things done. I think from the legislative process and any structural changes that I would like to be able to change. I do feel that sometimes we move ourselves away from the actual mission of our committees. And right now, we're proving out in the Appropriations Committee that we're actually appropriating rather than trying to authorize on appropriating bills. I think that's the right structure for us, but I think it's important that we basically follow our own rules within the committees rather than trying to perhaps expand them. I don't know if that's as significant as a legislative change as some of my colleagues might want, but I do think that there are good reasons for some of the old and arcane rules that come with the Senate that have allowed us to function for a couple hundred years. I think if we followed our own rules a little more to the T, we might be better off. Thanks, Jodi. All right, Sydney, you're last up.
Hello, Senator. My name is Sydney Cox. I just graduated from West Valley High School in Fairbanks, and my question to you is, would you ever want to be president? Why or why not?
Yeah. That one is almost automatic for me. No, I would not want to be president of the United States. The reason being, president is obviously the most significant, highest office. And in order to be president, I have always felt that you have to rise above where you have come from, and you have to embrace all of the country as a whole. I'm afraid that I would never be able to not put Alaska first. And I think as president, you would have to make sure that you're treating the country evenly. And I just have to state up front that I could never be in a place where I would put Alaska anywhere else but first. Now, I am obviously American first, and our country is what we pledge to uphold and protect. But I'm still going to put Alaska at the top of the 50 states. So that's just my Alaska. So wear it on my heart. Well, we have come to the end of our program. We have come to the end of your internships. So I hope that you all have enjoyed this experience and this opportunity. Know that I have, know that my staff has appreciated your input, your smiles and your enthusiasm. You make our office just a better place, and we really appreciate that. So to our viewers, I thank each of you for joining with us and getting to meet this fine group of young Alaskans. I've been impressed with them, and I hope you've gotten a sense as to what we have and the opportunities that we have. So thank you for joining us on the Alaska Report, and thank you. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to visit with Alaskans in your hometown as we move around the state in the months ahead. And with that, thank you and take care. We'll see you on the next edition of the Alaska Report.